the big elephant in the room, and particularly with WWE nowadays. Uh, Lots of major cuts on the roster recently, and seems like there's more to come. Uh, it's awful. It's just flat out awful, and I mean, there's no other way to put it. And so I'm gonna start. I'll let you guys get into this in a second, but I wanted to start that just for disclosure that I've been pretty put off by the WWE's product recently, and yes, part of it is me not liking these cuts that they've been doing, but just the product in general just hasn't caught my interest. I do try to watch, SmackDown before we have one of these shows because I like to just kind of be kept in the loop on what's happening, especially when it's a go home show, for pay per view like Survivor Series. But as I was watching as I was watching SmackDown, I'm looking at these wrestlers and just kind of looking at their body language. And maybe I'm kind of projecting my own feelings about this, but I see it almost like they're dejected because it's like a lot of your friends that you've been working with and all that are getting cut, and they have to be wondering in the back of their heads, am I next? Because it just seems like these cuts just kind of happen at the drop of a hat. It used to be that once, maybe twice a year, you would get these, broad cuts because, okay, there's a finite number of people that you can have. You're going to have new talent come in, so some's got to make their way out. But it has been ridiculous. I believe the count is 150 that have been let go since last year, which is absolutely absurd. And budget cut reasons and what have you, that's the excuse that's being given for everyone. But they're boasting about record profits in their to talking to their shareholders and all that. It's just flat out disgusts me. And I come on to this show to talk with you guys and do predictions and things like that because I enjoy talking with you, and I like our listeners coming in and listening to us and all that. Putting on a good face here, even though I'm pretty pissed with WWE at the moment. Not gonna lie. I don't know what do you guys think about all of this.
I'm gonna go to you first, Dana, because I have a lot to say.
Well, we know this is something that just occurred 2 weeks ago. We had the other round, and back then we were stunned by they released Bray Wyatt and Keith Lee, and these were huge Karrion Cross, and these were huge names that we all thought was going to be within the company. Karrion Cross, yeah, he had a very botched kind of entryway into the main roster, but we thought they would eventually, hopefully, figure this out. And that was not the case. Keith Lee, we know, was just, battling with his long haul of COVID. And we thought, well, they're going to make sure that he's okay. And they're not going to get rid of him. And Bray Wyatt was the top merchandise seller in the company. So we knew he's going to be fine. And they got rid of them anyway. And so, that's to show that no one is safe. And then when you have someone who's like B-Fab and Hit Row, these are people who literally just signed their contracts, what, 2-3 weeks ago, not even? And they're all gone. It started with her. Remember, the reasoning was that, oh, they don't need her. The group will be fine without B-Fab. And then 2 weeks later, the whole group is gone. And it was just mind-boggling what's going on. So if you look at just some of the names here that we have on the list, Tegan Knox is extremely surprising. Drake Maverick, oh my gosh, talk about someone who lost his job last year. You lose your job last year, and then you put out this really emotional video, which a lot of people was debating was a shoot or not a shoot, and it wasn't. And they rehired him again, this time for NXT. He's really happy. He's really great. Everything's wonderful. And then you get fired again. And he put out a new video that was basically, it started out like the original one was, and was like, stop crying, you are a wrestler, and at the end of the day you will always be a wrestler, and there are wrestling companies out there, and you got the attention of John Cena,
Mhm.
and that is, you gotta, ugh. I hate how they did these people. I hate how everything went down, but I don't know. Maybe it'll. I hope it all works out for a majority of them. Um, but this is something that was just really mind-boggling, and the whole excuse of budget cuts. It's just insulting at this point, and I know a lot of other wrestlers spoke out about this. Some who were already fired, talking about just how the company doesn't care about people, and this is not a practice that's anything new. We all know of big name brand companies. You got your Googles and your Amazons and your Goldman Sachs out there who are like, oh, we made $20 billion, and the top executive take home all of the profit and all of the money, but no, we have to let 100 people go because we're poor or whatever. It's not anything new, but that doesn't make it right. It's morally wrong. And you look at the whole situation with John Morrison. Remember, his wife got fired 2 weeks ago, and then they fired him, but they couldn't fire him the 2 weeks ago because he was stuck in the UK, and it was a lot of weird things that was going on with that situation, and you just waited the 2 weeks in order to do that, and the whole thing overall was just insulting. Sorry, was just insulting. Um, and I know now that there's been a statement out that this is something that's going to happen more than once. Because back in the day, they usually, maybe once a year, and it was usually the talent who they really did not have anything for, the talent who wasn't doing anything, who was kind of floundering around, and that was like maybe at most 5 people. And now we have, we are up to 80, what, in just this year? 80 people for just this year alone.
Mhm.
So it's mind boggling, but it goes to show, remember when they was doing that hiring spree? And they was hiring everybody because they were terrified of what was happening with AEW, that was happening with the other competition. Let's scoop up everyone, and it's just all like for what? You take away people's opportunities that they could have had. Firings happen all the time, yes, but you're purposely taking away people's opportunities to prevent other companies to scoop them up, to a majority of them not have anything for, to just then fire them. So the whole thing is terrible and a mess, and it is a PR disaster for WWE, but they just don't care because it's all about profit and what's happening with the shareholders. You mean you have something like Dark Side of the Ring, and everyone's looking at them side eye now. We all knew that it was a bit grimy, but now when you
Mhm.
put it all out there, so this is just not a good look. But it's at the point where they don't care. They don't care about what you have to say because they have their Saudi Arabia money, they have their Peacock money, they have what other endorsement deals, their TV shows and movies that are coming out with Netflix and Peacock and other networks. Remember, we have the Hulk Hogan and the Vince McMahon documentary that's coming out, the movie docu-series that's coming out. So they don't really care. So yeah, this is just either, yeah. It's at this point, it's all. If you're a wrestler, I would definitely be like, what's going on? Because when you get the people who just now signed gone, and the people who are actually making the most merchandise money gone, no one is really safe.
Yeah. Um, Very good thoughts from the both of you, and I pretty much agree with everything that you both said. It definitely feels like it's a hostile work environment. The excuse of budget cuts, that ain't the case for everything. Because just as you said, Dana, Top Row, or Hit Row rather, who just got moved up to the main roster, I'm pretty sure they were still getting their NXT salary because that just happened like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But what I find interesting is that because I followed that story a little bit more, because I know Top Dollar had a couple of comments on his Twitter. Because what happened is after they got released, then somebody made a comment about, oh, well, somebody reported, obviously not a credible source, saying that he got released because of attitude problems, which is another thing that they put out about Keith Lee as well. And he said, and he confirmed in his tweet, Top Dollar did, he said that he was very vocal when they got rid of his other friend who was a part of this group as well. So I think him complaining about that made sense, but the fact to get rid of them all collectively when they had just called them up, that just tells me it's not really just about budget cuts. There's more to this aside from whatever they said, but they're going to say budget cuts because they figure that that's the easiest explanation they can give people. Now, I will say this. There are some people they got rid of. They haven't been using creatively. Jackson Riker, who was in a feud with Elias, the last time I saw him was when he was in a feud with Elias. They haven't been using him or Elias. So I figured Elias probably going to get cut if he isn't cut already. But it's just like some people they didn't really have any direction on how to use these people properly. Even Drake Maverick to an extent, because you now had this guy in the 24/7 stuff when all the stuff that he's done that has been better was when he was in NXT. So to me, this is the issue of Vince McMahon and Nick Khan and everybody working under Vince, because they're afraid to talk to Vince. They're afraid to challenge him on any ideas he has. This is once again his idea of, now that he has control over NXT, he can put his own ideas into NXT, into certain wrestlers, and then move those wrestlers to the main roster and get rid of the people who are the bigger stars. So as y'all alluded to, really nobody is safe. You know, Roman Reigns, yes, for now, because he's in a prominent role, it feels like he's safe for now. Seth Rollins, yes, for now, because they're using these guys and they have to rely on them heavily. People like Finn Balor, though, no, I don't expect him to stay in WWE. Kevin Owens will probably be gone as well. So you're definitely going to see more people leaving when they have an opportunity to re-sign. AJ Styles also, because you recall AJ Styles, when this pandemic started and he was doing his thing, he had already said that he was going to be retiring, but then because of what happened with the pandemic and not being around the fans and all this other stuff, that kind of changed his plan. And he has been considering, you know, not retiring from wrestling yet. But I do believe when his contract is up, he's gone from WWE. He can easily show up in any other promotion as a one-off if he wanted to. And I think that's definitely going to happen. But yeah, it's just, it shows that they don't really value and respect their talent. And the other big thing, and this is my last point, is that all of this is happening right before the holiday season. And that's what I really dislike, because I've been in jobs before where the contract ends, they decide to end it right before the holiday season. And maybe you wanted to get something for you, maybe you wanted to get some gifts for your family or whatever. It's just not a good time for any of this stuff to happen, period. But yeah, it's a bad look on WWE, and it's going to impact them. And again, I want it to be a situation where they lose a major star. And I feel that that's coming. We saw it. We saw Moxley go to AEW. You saw Christian and others go to AEW. That's fine. But I want them to lose an even bigger star than those. Like if any of the people that I mentioned, Seth Rollins or whatever, left WWE, I kind of feel like that would be something that, yeah, WWE will probably act as though, we're fine. We're not hurt by this. But they are going to be hurt behind the scenes, because they fought so hard to make sure Edge didn't leave. So I kind of feel like I want to see that happen so that they get a reality check as to how important it is to actually build talent and you know, respect the people that you do have. But we'll see. We'll see if that happens. But for now, I will say it's horrible to hear about the cuts. I wish everybody well in their future endeavors. I'm pretty sure Drake Maverick's video, that was a fantastic video. This guy is going to be working again. I don't know if it's going to be AEW, wherever he goes. He's definitely, when his 90 days is up, he's going to be on another promotion. So I expect to see him next year somewhere. But yeah, unfortunate news. That's all I have to say.
So that's something that I wanted to touch upon, like mentioned, like the 90-day non-compete and everything. Mm-hmm. Frankly, the non-compete is a load of crap and does not apply, because these are not actual employees; they're independent contractors. And the thing is that I believe that there have been wrestlers who have fought and won in court about that. It's just that takes money to go through that in court. Not every wrestler is willing to do that. They'd rather just sit the 3 months and let it
No, you
play
don't
out.
have to go to court anymore because remember they recorded all their record profits and made that public. So you can fight against that. A lot of the employee, the wrestlers have been like, well, then let me go because you have all this money. But at the end of the day, remember, it also can be a safety net, especially during the holidays. You're still being paid. So
Right. That's
and it
true.
helps if you're like overseas because there's the visa situation.
Right. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, it's safety net unless there's a kind of a hush hush deal in line for whoever leaves. Like I'm sure, like when Malachi Black was able to get out of his thing early, go right to AEW. I'm sure that was already in talks beforehand. I'm sure that was the case with Moxley, and that's part of why he was so sure that he was leaving, even though they tried last minute to try to keep him around. And to go to Rich, to go to your point about that they need to lose a big star, I absolutely 100% agree with that, because I think that the ones that they're not utilizing, they don't care about. Like Keith Lee should be a star in that. He should have been a star in that company. They didn't treat him like that. Doesn't mean he isn't one. It's just they didn't treat him like that. They don't care. But someone that they actually invest in, that they care about, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, one of them, when any of them left, just remember when Hulk Hogan, I hate invoking his name, but Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, Diesel, Razor Ramon, when they all fled for WCW, Vince was furious. And he poked fun at them on WWF programming because he was hurt. He was hurt because he had invested so much in them over the years, and they left. They went to the enemy and all of that. If a major, I'm talking about main event guy from WWE went to AEW, that can be like okay, well now it can be anyone because WWE is not treating their talent the way it's supposed to. Rich, you have something you want to mention?
I just was going to say, I 100% this to happen for Charlotte because there's been tension. He already has her fiance is in AEW, so that's going to happen at some point, and that's going to be a reminder, I think, of when what is her name? Is it Alondra Blaze left and went to WCW and took the belt? That's going to be a reminder that history does repeat itself. But that's going to happen. I think that's going to, because all of the heat with her and Becky Lynch, I think that is a legit heat because of, I saw that video. I went back and saw the video that WWE has tried to edit. There clearly is some issues creatively with what they're doing with Charlotte. So we'll see what happens.
Well, we've seen them push Andrade out. We've seen them push her father, Ric Flair, out. I mean, she's running out of patience.
Yeah.
And I think she's probably the most likely out of the big names to jump ship. And God, that I hope Vince is around for that, because I need to see the meltdown. But then again, it might not matter, because that's another thing that I was going to touch upon. I know that we have predictions that we're going to get into here.
Yeah.
But all of these cuts, yes, you have in cases like Hit Row, maybe they're trying to make an example of people, like, oh, you don't dare speak up against us or we'll cut all of you. But the thing is that part of the budget cuts, in fact, maybe the only reason for budget cuts is because they're selling the company. That's what they're going to do. And I heard that January was when that's going to go into effect, or when that'll start. And that's right. That's what I mean. Earlier this year, I was hearing that it was for January, was when they might sell it to NBC or something like that. And so that could be why we're getting like so many cuts so quickly in time for that. But that's a theory. That hasn't been verified or anything.
So can I just make one quick comment, and then I'll let you continue, and Dana. I just want to say that whoever buys WWE, I hope they are looking at what happened when WWE did this deal with Fox and how they have been very disappointed with giving WWE all this money to the point where now they are trying to control some stuff that happens on the show. So it doesn't make sense for them to sell a product when you don't have stars to promote the product or are building stars. So
Right.
yeah, everybody should be worried. But no, go ahead.
No, I'm funny. I'm like a little bit of a hypocrite. Me going about like WWE sucks for all this stuff, and I'm wearing this SmackDown Live shirt because I mean this is the Survivor Series discussion show or whatever.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd be in the mood and do that. But this is a reminder of when SmackDown was actually good.
Mm-hmm.
When like 2016 and everything. Dean Ambrose was your champion and everything, and it was a lot more entertaining and a lot more refreshing and all that. They've gone away from that. I'm sure Fox is upset, especially seeing Raw pillage that roster.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness, what a mess. What a mess with the company. Dana, do you have anything did you want to add on that?
Yes, I do. If we all know that there are some contracts that are coming up. We have Kyle O'Reilly, we have Kevin Owens, we have Sami Zayn, we have Johnny Gargano. If you're in their position, do you accept? Because they're going to throw money. They had, what was it? The Wrestling Observer reported that they have thrown a boatload of money at Johnny Gargano in order to make him resign, and not just resign for like a small time, but for a very extended time, which he could very much well sign, and then, as we know, with Hit Row, get cut the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So, at that, where if you was them, is there any kind of benefit with still staying with the company? At the end of the day, they do have bills to pay.
Well, the thing with Johnny Gargano, also, we know he is expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So if he did sign that deal because he wants to provide for the family, I totally understand that, because I think Kevin Owens was in the same position with when he had all his kids, because when he first signed his deal and got to the they fast tracked him to the main roster as fast as they could. So I think if he did sign for that reason, I understand. But from a creative standpoint, if you go based off of the ideas that creative has in the rumored stuff they said they were going to do with Adam Cole, there's no way in hell I would want to go to the main roster if I'm worried about how I'm going to be presented. Because there's a reason. Because if you recall, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa had matches on the main roster before. You saw how that they were the exact same way they were in NXT. We already know if Johnny Gargano gets moved to SmackDown, they're going to change something about how the character is now. And that's where I think it would be a problem. So he has to keep that in mind if he does sign a deal. It's not going to be the same. It'll be the same to people who watch NXT. They'll be like, yeah, they remember Johnny Gargano, but it's not going to be presented exactly the same. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that all they need to do is just see what's happened with their friends and how they were treated, and see that. I mean, here's the thing. This is one more thing I wanted to go into all this, and why this is a disaster for the industry, because AEW and Impact can't sign everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's only so much space. They can't sign everyone. There's not enough airtime for everyone. And the problem is, like, between that, you have Ring of Honor letting everybody go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Chikara went down, like a year or so ago? That company went under. And it's like, this is almost as if it's what WWE wanted, like to ruin the territories like they did before. They've gone and ruined UK by doing NXT UK and taking away all the indie talent from there.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't make that scene any better. They made it worse. And then you have now, you collected all the indie guys. You collected as many people as you can. I still remember all the wrestlers that they signed to just keep them locked in and benched. The late Brody Lee, when he was Luke Harper in WWE, was signed and he wanted to compete, and they just had nothing for him. They just had him stay home. They wanted to sign Rhino. to stay home. They just did not. They didn't care about any of the creative freedom or any of that stuff. It's just we want to keep you away from other companies. We will pay you to keep you away from other companies and just stay home and do nothing. And that's wrong. It's good that these wrestlers that are going out and they're able to actually compete. They're able to actually have fun with their with their fellow workers and all that stuff. And I don't know, like maybe like there needs to be more companies that like AEW, not just AEW though, that emerge that can house more of this talent, because all these people that were let go, all not all of them, but a lot of them very highly entertaining people, and they all deserve to have their gifts on display and to earn well from that. Because I mean, the harsh reality of it is that not everyone that's been let go is going to continue wrestling. Some of them are going to have to look for other means, and it's just very sad. It was unnecessary. It was unnecessary. That's the thing that is really frustrating about all of this. And again, like I said, it's happening around the holidays, so there's no humanity to it either. It's just they're not seen as people; they're seen as numbers. It's like, oh, we can save more money by getting rid of this. Last thing, I swear. Hit Row. I knew nothing about them when I first heard about them on NXT. They got called up quickly. I was surprised by that. And I was like, okay, well, maybe they're better than I thought because they called them up pretty aggressively. I don't know anything about them, and I'm not invested in them, but I'm curious. I want to see what they can do. They did not give me a chance to see what they can do. They didn't give me a chance to invest in them. They let them go within like a month of calling them up. It's an absolute freaking disgrace. It's a terrible, terrible look. Terrible look.
Yep.
It's probably the of all the cuts, but getting rid of B-Fab because they don't need her in the group. They'll be fine. And then they let everyone else go. Load of bullshit. It's a load of bullshit.
Yes.
So I'm
and I would just say, as a Swerve Scott fan who was liking his heel turn and the stuff he did in NXT, I especially was angry about that because it felt like this guy they could have did a lot more with him. Even though when he was moved up, they looked at Top Dollar as the star, and they throw him in a tag team with Adonis, the other guy. Which that's what I'm saying. If anyone is going to get moved from NXT that you thought it was a star now, they will not be looked upon or treated the same creatively when they get moved to the main roster. So that's why I said they all should be concerned about their future with that company now.
Absolutely. That's the thing. They're all going to look over their shoulder. Dana, you have something you want to add?
Yeah, no, also on top of that, they were getting rid of people who were literally in the middle of a storyline, and their storyline was actually not bad. So it wasn't even like, oh, we don't have anything for you. They were literally in feuds. So the whole situation is just extra confusing. You had Hit Row, who was in the middle of a feud as well that was starting and brewing. You had Tegan Knox, who literally just came back. Remember, we think it was her third ACL surgery that she had. They said they were going to take care of her. Everything was going to be all right. That did not work, as we all now found out. And what's really interesting is the people who is considered to be, probably behind the stage or, always talking something and is, against the company, always labeled as being bad or something is that to that effect. Are people who speak out against what's going on. So you had Bray Wyatt. All of a sudden, he was labeled as being, a complainer. And he's just sitting here like, oh, no, I'm waiting for that interview to drop. That's going to be good. That's going to be the CM Punk of the podcast. So you had him being labeled as that. You have Charlotte Flair, which we do know who I'm going to assume, because I don't live with her. I don't know what's going on in her mind. But is going to assume who wants out as well. But these are people who are all labeled complainers. Also with the whole situation with Keith Lee. Remember with Keith Lee, he's like, oh yes, and I paid my medical bills. And then out of the blue, unnecessary, here comes WWE. No, we have to think, well, we pay your bills, and here's the receipt. And I'm like, what is this even about? So I don't know what they're trying to do over at the WWE. Just in regards to their responses, has been pretty awful.
Yeah.
Their PR department has been pretty awful and labeling everyone as being difficult. How was everyone in the? I'm not saying that there are people who are difficult, but everyone that you seem to have fired is difficult all of a sudden. So
Yeah.
it's just weird how they're trying to counteract this with these weird reports where all you have is somebody to speak out against something, and it's a difficult matter.
Yeah, their public
Oh,
relations is an embarrassment,
it's
So
it's
among others. But go ahead, Rich.
I just want to make this final point about this topic.
mhm.
I know I already mentioned that. Yeah, I want to see them lose a major star, but this is the other thing, and we probably will never see this. But I know that Triple H has to feel a certain way about all the stuff that's happened with NXT, about the people that he worked hard to get into that company to try to elevate and do something with, to see them all get released, or creatively they get moved to the main roster and then everything falls apart. He
Mhm.
has to feel a certain type of way about this. Unfortunately, I guess we will never see that because he doesn't want to show that to the public.
Right.
Um,
Mm.
but I want to see, because there's no way he can just be like, oh, everything is fine. Yeah, with all the stuff happened with Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, he has to have some reaction to this. If it's behind closed doors for us to never see, that's unfortunate, but it's ridiculous.
Oh,
But no, go ahead. You're gonna say something, Dana. Go
no.
ahead.
Also, remember Shane, their son, the actual biological son, fled the company.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want any parts of this.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing is just odd situation, but I don't know what Triple H will do. I don't know if he will ever say anything. I know a lot of people are speculating if he'll just form his own company. He has those connections. We all know what he is capable of. If there's going to be some type of fusion with Jeff Jarrett, hilariously, and Dixie Carter and whoever is out there, if they're going to create like that third company, which is, if you look at it, something that is needed. Just overall in general,
Yeah.
I don't know how many wrestling companies exist in America, especially now after the pandemic. I just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to need someone. AEW can't do everything, as you're saying. NWA can't do everything. GCW, I know now, not now, wow is starting up, and that's like an abomination and PR disaster right there from the beginning.
Yeah.
But we do need another brand that can be viable, that can prove itself, and I do hope, probably won't ever happen, but I do hope that Triple H and his buddies get together and was like, let's start something.
Yeah.
The Hunter House, whatever his name is, Triple H company or
Hunter
some
Hearst
shit.
Helmsley. Yeah.
Hunter Hearst, do
Yeah.
something. So I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Yeah.
No one ever thought AEW would happen after a one show of All Out. So maybe that will happen, but it will. I would definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, I think so too. It would be great to have Triple H have the chance to continue to develop his talents, let them prosper, let them grow, let them show off what they can do in an environment that continues to be nurturing and not have to worry about budget cuts. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like I thought that Triple H did a great job with that transition from FCW to NXT and building that brand, and just seeing that all get undone in the past year has been really demoralizing, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that he can uh, that some way have something of his own that he could work with. Who knows what the future holds, but I know that it's not just us that's upset about these cuts. I can only imagine